I've always heard the word dopamine when I watch productivity videos. Some other productivity YouTuber will mention that every time you get a notification from social media, you get a hit of dopamine. And I'd be like, yeah, I know that stuff. I've always heard of it all around me, but I never really put the time into understanding it and seeing how it worked and what it did. Understanding dopamine is actually pretty useful. Also, through understanding it, we can start turning around the negative effects of it and put it into positive use in our lives. Also, as a disclaimer, I am not a scientific expert, and these opinions are based off of my research and observations. So really, what is dopamine? Dopamine is a chemical produced by our brains when we expect or receive a reward. It is commonly known as a messenger chemical because it carries messages between brain cells. Contrary to popular beliefs, this chemical by itself does not create pleasure. Instead, it provides us with the motivation to do something repeatedly, and instead, the said something we're doing is what brings us pleasure. Addictions are driven by dopamine. Take a social media addiction, for example. Every time you get likes or comments on a post, it will give you a hit of dopamine. This is what social media apps are designed to do, make you addicted, and give you carefully calculated dopamine hits to make sure you stay longer, to make sure you use it, and regularly. However, after a period of time with regular exposure to dopamine, the same amount of dopamine won't give you as much pleasure. This can be called developing a tolerance towards it. Then, you will have to get more exposure to the thing you are addicted to get the same amount of pleasure. And that's why addictions are so fatal. Not just drug addictions, but social media, YouTube, and other addictions can turn around and bite you in the butt. Hard. So what I discovered while researching this subject is the grand role that dopamine plays in the habit loop. I said previously that dopamine gives you motivation to do something. And if we look at the habit loop, we have the cue or trigger in your environment. Then we have the craving. The craving is triggered by the dopamine in your brain, the motivation to do something. In this case, the habit. After the craving, we have the routine, which is the actual actions that people commonly think of as the habit. Lastly, we have the reward, which fills up the dopamine in your brain to make you crave to do the habit more next time the cue turns up. This habit loop is at the center of all addictions. All addictions are essentially habits, just extremely destructive ones. Similarly to the habit loop, dopamine is at the center of all addictions. It drives addicts forward. This role of dopamine in the habit loop can be a good thing or a bad thing, just how a habit can be a good one or a bad one. So now you know if you need to break out of a bad habit or perhaps an addiction, dopamine is to blame. There's a solution to this. Simple, sure, but not easy in any way. The key to breaking these addictions is to, at its core, do not do the routine. That means by extension, you are also trying to make sure you don't feel the craving to do the routine. That also means by extension, you are trying to make sure that you don't have the cue in your environment. And the other thing you need to know is that the routine can also be thought of as the dopamine stimulus. The pleasure that the reward brings us, triggered by dopamine, and the craving we feel earlier in the habit loop is the work of dopamine as well. So what you want to do here is remove the cue, which can be thought of as the first step of the habit loop. While the habit loop is a never-ending cycle, a habit played out in our day-to-day lives will start with a cue. The cue will then not trigger the dopamine craving you will feel to do the routine, which will not provide you with the reward that sends dopamine throughout your body, which will not fuel the craving you feel next time throughout the habit loop. Dopamine plays a large factor in our lives, possibly even larger than we realized. Well, until today, I was completely uneducated about this field. I didn't understand dopamine at all, and I never realized what it did to us. Learning about something is essential to conquering it. You cannot defeat an enemy without knowing them first. So, share this video with someone to teach them about dopamine and the effect it has in our lives. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you want to check out some of my work, you can check out the links in the description, and you can also read a brief overview of the video in the description as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!